An Israeli military intelligence officer happened to stay at Jeffrey Epstein's Manhattan apartment on at least 3 separate occasions, and that's according to a new report from Dropsite News. Now, Epstein may have even wired money to him, once again raising questions about Epstein's alleged ties to Israeli intelligence networks. Alleged. Now, Dropsite compiled some of the evidence for this story from former Israeli Prime Minister Ehud Barak's hacked emails. So we have that, super interesting. In addition to Epstein's personal schedules, which were in fact released by the House Oversight Committee just last month. Now, the intelligence officer that we're referring to here, that was reported by the Dropsite News story, is a man by the name of Yoni Koren. Yoni Koren, Israeli military intelligence officer who stayed at Epstein's Manhattan apartment on at least 3 separate occasions. And here's what we know about him. He started his career in the research division of the IDF's military intelligence directorate, which is called Amman. And he eventually rose through the ranks to become a senior officer. Now, in 1985, Koren worked on a covert campaign with Mossad to help Syrian intelligence kidnap PLO operatives traveling from Cyprus to Lebanon. And he also worked very closely with Israel's former Prime Minister Ehud Barak. He did so for years while serving as his chief of staff. While serving as the chief of staff for the IDF, managing his schedules and his operations. Now, Barak's friendship with Epstein has been well documented. We actually have images of him entering Epstein's apartment. So we've known about that already, but he did, so that's well documented. He met with Epstein dozens of times. He flew on Epstein's jet and once visited the infamous Epstein Island. We're talking about Ehud Barak here. Now, one of the times Koren stayed at Epstein's place was while he was working as a senior aide to Ehud Barak. Now, after Barak left the IDF, Koren headed his staff as interior minister, then foreign minister, and then after that, defense minister. And the details here are super interesting. After Barak's retirement, Koren was a covert fixer in Washington who enjoyed special access to senior national security figures, I'm sure he did, including Leon Panetta and his senior advisor, Jeremy Bash. As soon as Barak left the Israeli government, Koren became a key go-between for Barak and the American and Israeli intelligence communities. So let's get to the email records and what they show, because apparently they show that Barak was using Koren as an intermediary to exchange information with Amman. Koren was also active in Epstein and Barak's efforts to source cybersecurity startups from the technology research units of Amman, demonstrating how enmeshed in Israeli spy networks he remained. So now let's get to some details about his stays at Epstein's Manhattan apartment. By the way, are you guys seeing the intertwined nature of Mossad and the CIA and the fact that they had a relationship with Epstein in the first place? So that child trafficking that took place wasn't part of a blackmail operation. Are we stupid? I'm sorry. I don't believe anyone who tries to pour cold water on the fact that Epstein was running a blackmail operation. It's so obvious. I mean, how else do you explain the unwavering commitment to Israel, regardless of who's in charge in that country, regardless of the political makeup of the Knesset, regardless of what type of atrocities Israel is carrying out, regardless of how much money it costs the American taxpayers and how much it destroys the economic health of this country to keep up with this charade? No, there are American politicians and elites in the US, powerful, influential people who might be pedophiles and do Israel's bidding because they don't want that information to come out. It's just so obvious, guys. It's so obvious. But anyway, let's talk about Koren's stays at Epstein's apartment. So Koren was also active. So let's talk about the first day. The first day at Epstein's Manhattan apartment was back in February of 2013. So this is when he was working as Ehud Barak's senior aide. Now, the following year, according to Epstein's personal calendars released by the House, Corin stayed at Epstein's spare apartment again for the first 2 weeks of October 2014. The calendar released by the House committee reads, reminder, Yoni in apartment, September 30 through October 13th. And then in the weeks preceding his stay at Epstein's apartment, Corin maintained contact with spies in Amman, despite his supposed status as a private citizen. And then there was his third stay that we know of. There might be more, but in terms of the reporting we're seeing from Drop Site News, they were able to identify 3 separate occasions. Let's talk about the third one. His third stay at Epstein's apartment was for 10 days in September. That's a long time. It's a long time hanging out with a freaking child sex trafficker and pedophile, but that's what this guy was up to. Epstein's assistant, Leslie, wrote an email to Corin, essentially informing him that she had reserved an apartment for him for 10 days. And then Corin responded, that's what you're looking at here, with thanks a lot, send my regards and thanks to Jeffrey. Obviously he's referring to Jeffrey Epstein there. Now, during all 3 of his stays in Epstein's Manhattan apartment, Corin appeared to be conducting official or unofficial business on behalf of Ehud Barak. So let's talk a little bit about Ehud Barak. Because in February of 2015, a few months before Corin's third visit to Epstein's Manhattan apartment, leaked emails show that Ehud Barak was actually sending Epstein bank details for funds that were to be wired to Corin's Citibank account. We have the evidence right here. Let's take a quick look at that. There it is, that's the email. Obviously the account numbers and all that have been redacted, but it's from Ehud Barak to Jeffrey Epstein. Hi, Jeff, that's the info. Then you have the account number. Dropsite could not determine the purpose of the wire transfer or confirm whether or not the funds were successfully sent to Corin. All we know right now is that a former prime minister of Israel got into contact with Jeffrey Epstein to provide bank account details of an Israeli spy so Epstein can wire money to this individual. Okay. But the bank transfer information was followed by an unusually cryptic communication between Barak and Corin regarding handoff of a physical bank card. The two had a pretty good reason to communicate in coded language because documents leaked by Edward Snowden just over a year prior revealed that the 2 men were major counterintelligence targets for the United States, and the NSA had been snooping on their messages. Did they know, I mean, did our intelligence community know that they were spying on an Israeli? Like, you don't do that. They get to do whatever they want, including here on US soil, with a disgusting, disgraced child sex trafficker and pedophile. So this is Dropsite's 4th installment in its series about Jeffrey Epstein and his ties to Israel. So far, they've exposed quite a bit, including Epstein's role in brokering a security agreement between Israel and Mongolia. They've also identified Epstein's effort to set up a back channel between Israel and Russia during the Syrian civil war. And they also showed Epstein's role as a key facilitator of a security agreement between Israel and the West African nation, and a West African nation that I'm not gonna try to pronounce because I'm gonna mispronounce it. And their reporting throws a wrench in the government's official line that Epstein had no foreign or domestic intelligence ties, obviously. Like, who would believe our government on this issue in particular? I wouldn't. I wouldn't at all. They're either being blackmailed or bribed, and they're not telling us the truth. Our media launders Israel's reputation. Our media lies to the American people about what Israel is actually up to. Why would we believe for a second that our government which has been in bed with the Israelis, would ever tell us the truth about a guy who was very likely running a blackmail operation and his ties to the Israelis. Because guess what? That wouldn't be a good look, right? It wouldn't be a good look for Israel, and certainly it wouldn't be a good look for the United States either, since we're obviously involved in this. If literal minors were being trafficked with the main purpose of getting blackmail on powerful people, whether it's in this country or any other country. You're literally exploiting children, minors, to be raped so foreign governments can have dirt on powerful people? Okay. Meanwhile, Mike Johnson said the Republicans are doing everything they can to prevent the Epstein files from being exposed. So he didn't say that he's doing that, but Mike Johnson's behavior has made it clear that he and the Republicans are doing everything they can to prevent like real transparency about the Epstein files. He's refused to swear in Democratic Congresswoman elect Adelina Grijalva, who would serve as the final member needed to force a vote on the release of the Epstein files. And in Marjorie Taylor Greene's recent conversation with Megyn Kelly, she wondered whether the Epstein issue was the real reason Mike Johnson refused to convene the House during the shutdown, the government shutdown. Take a look at that.
Everyone, for how many years now, all of us have been calling to release the Epstein files. And Thomas Massey entered a resolution to release, and I'm a co-sponsor. I want to release the Epstein files, and it's been blocked over and over, unfortunately. I tell you what, I've started to question, is this why we're not in session?
Really?
Yeah.
I think it's fair to have that suspicion. I know that I've certainly had that suspicion. And today, Mike Johnson, again, House Speaker, called the House back into session. So we'll see if he immediately swears in Grijalva as promised, or if he continues to block a vote on the Epstein files. I'd bet on the latter, but who knows, he might prove me wrong. I hope he does. Israel's involvement with Epstein is disgusting. And the fact that our government is trying to cover this all up is even more disgusting.
Every time you ring the bell below, an angel gets his wings. Totally not true, but it does keep you updated on our live shows.